Okay, Super Joe and Mexican Dave. Wait, I got that wrong. Okay, it's Mexican Joe, Super Dave, and we got Fighter Doc on the line today. How's it going, Doc?
I'm doing good. How y'all doing?
Good. We're gonna help Bob out with another one. This one's kind of an important one. We're gonna discuss the Ebola outbreak. In Doc's last interview, we were going to get back to it, and then things in Doc's world ramped up, and we got other projects, and now we think we need to get back to it. So just to kind of step back for people who are listening to this as a first interview for you, Doc, you are Fighter Doc on Bob's Forum on the Survival Podcast, Survival Show. So go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of tell everybody who you are, what you do.
I am Fighter Doc. I'm active duty military. Having said that, nothing that I'm going to say in this podcast represents official DoD policy or Air Force policy and should not be construed to suggest anything along those lines. Standard military disclaimer. I am a physician. I've been practicing medicine for a while. I've had the chance to go some fun and exciting places that were hot and miserable. I don't ever want to go back. I've had the chance to treat some folks who've been to places even more miserable than I have. My specialty area of interest is aerospace medicine, family medicine, board certified in both of those. I enjoy travel medicine. It's one of those things I really get a kick out of, working with missionaries and working with our special operators is kind of one of those things that I like doing. I also take care of pilots, all the air crew and all that kind of stuff, which is a really great job. Unfortunately, somehow somebody heard I was doing good things, so they stuck me in a staff job, so I now work inside the D.C. Beltway. Doing a lot of paperwork about medicine, but not actually doing a whole lot of medicine face to face. But I'm hoping to fix that here shortly.
So you answer a lot of emails.
Yes. We do a lot of, I'm on the fringe of, policy and medicine and politics and science, and so, every once in a while the politicians will say, hey, we think this is a good idea, and I'll say this is a horrible idea, and they'll say, no, you don't understand, we think this is a good idea, and then I go, yes, sir, and then we try to minimize the damage. I'm a big fan of having civilian control of the government, I get that, but sometimes it creates some additional challenges. Let me just leave it there before I get myself fired.
Yeah, well, we see that, and we've talked about that amongst ourselves and amongst our network about how policymakers and politicians get in the way of the experts. I'm sorry, you're a doctor. I mean, unless I'm a politician and a doctor, I have no right to, discredit what you have to say.
And I think that's where we started to kind of see a change in trends. This is probably more political discussion. In the last, 15 years or so, we've seen a lot fewer doctors, a lot fewer military folks serving in Congress and even at the state and local levels. Now most of Congress, state, local level representation is lawyers and professional politicians.
Yeah.
The days of the statesman is gone. Statesman, statesperson, whatever the gender neutral appropriate term is now. The person who's going to stand up and say, hey, this is the right thing to do, let's do the right thing, I think is fading fast if we don't start cleaning house and bringing the doctors, the working moms, the military person, the guy who was a lifelong hunter and he knows about conservation of the land and the species because that's what he did for a living. We got to bring those guys back into a position of authority where they can help make those decisions instead of let our decisions being made by those who have dollars and special interests and bring the votes.
Right. Okay. What one of the big things that we were here to talk about is I know that here a few weeks ago to a month ago, they brought the doctor back from Africa who had Ebola. Everybody kind of freaked out. I know I freaked out a little bit. I'm like, why are we bringing somebody who's infected back? We have the ability to treat them someplace else, even if it is on a ship, which can be self-contained. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden we've got a case in Dallas, Texas. Now, I'd like us to discuss this to where the standard civilian can understand it, because to us, me and Dave have discussed this heavily, it's NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical. So when we talk about how to get undressed, it's totally different than anybody can understand how to get undressed in that type of environment.
Right.
But what we what we want to do here is get you to tell us as much as you can about what this is, how it works, what we can do to prevent stuff. We've got some notes here. We're going to, kind of throw at you to pull a little more information out of you if we can. So with that, just go ahead and take off wherever you want to start.
So, Ebola, now is not the time to panic. We should have panicked months ago. I'm kidding. Panic isn't really productive. Preparation is productive. Planning is productive. Action always beats reaction. So I'd like to kind of start there. There's a tendency of, Ebola's, and I actually had this conversation in March. We need to start paying attention to Ebola. And I was, kind of patted on the head, and I was told, hey, look, Ebola's in another continent. It's in one of those areas, we'll never see it here. There have only been a handful of confirmed cases. You're a silly doctor with, public health experience. We don't really need your help here, thank you. And as time went on, and as we learned more, we saw, hey, this has potentially even been stewing since December time frame of end of last year. And so there may have been kind of sporadic cases, onesies, twosies, that were not, lab confirmed between December and March when we started seeing the first real ones, if you will. Ebola is a virus. It's generally transmitted person to person. It has caused a handful of rare outbreaks. I'm going to put outbreaks in quotes there because the previous outbreaks had been, hey, 4 people have this rare hemorrhagic fever and they all died, and that's the end of the story. That's all we know about it. And then a couple years later, you'll get 7, and then they all die, and that's all we hear about it. And it makes for great movies. I think there was a movie about that. Help me out here.
Outbreak,
right?
Outbreak, yeah. Dustin Hoffman, excellent movie.
And the solution, of course, was to firebomb the whole thing, and then the government covers it up, and it never happened.
Right.
Which there's times I support that. But when you start getting to hundreds of people, and now the numbers are starting to get gerbled now because we've got potentially 3,000 lab confirmed cases that have died. And because the countries that are experiencing this, West African countries with a poor infrastructure, a lot of distrust, a lot of corruption, a lot of political gain to be had from minimizing the situation, it's hard to trust the numbers. WHO comes in to help, but again, when you start bringing in political bodies to deal with the medical situations, things start to get squirrely, and it's hard to know what the real situation on the ground is.
Okay, I got a question for you. Let me hold you up right there because this kind of leads into something that we sent, the president sent a bunch of troops to Africa. Now, initially, we being not the far right or the far left, we kind of balance things. People are like, why are they sending troops to Africa for Ebola? Well, you can't shoot Ebola. I'm like, in our eyes, we don't know this, and maybe you can tell us, and maybe you can enlighten us a little bit. We don't think they were actually combat-style troops. We think they were more medical people, logistical people. Of course, I'm sure you have some MPs and some security people. But what would you think? And I know that these, were not necessarily Air Force people. These were probably more Army people. What's your feeling on that? What do you think the thinking was on that, or the purpose?
I think you guys nailed it. We start to think we're sitting in the military. We're thinking, tanks and bombs, a la outbreak. Let's, put everyone together in the village and just, burn it to smithereens and ignore it ever happened. That's not really who we're sending. We have several, we call them contingency response groups. Those are the guys that went down to Haiti. Those are the guys who have gone to, the mudslides in Iran and the earthquakes in Pakistan. And we've got guys, and I'm a family medicine doc, with a handful of other certifications, and I'm in the military. We've got guys, 2 cubicles over, I work with the entire group of the immunologists, the preventive health specialists, the public health specialists, and they kind of help coordinate who's going where to deal with this big next thing that's happening. So we're going to send, the Air Force is obviously going to be involved because we can be anywhere in the world within 24 hours. And we can, the president says go, our bags are already packed. We don't have to pack our bags. We grab our pre-packed bags, we're in a C-17 by, 12 hours, and we're in country X really, really fast, depending on where country X is. And so we've got these global reach laydown teams, we've got these emergency response teams that have embedded security, because that's kind of a big deal over there in a country that's as unstable as it is. And we've got preventive health technicians, specialists, we've got docs, we've got nurses. The big issue over there is not necessarily that they need physicians, it's that they need places to put people who are sick. They need IV hydration. They need supportive care. And it's that basic level of public health infrastructure that's lacking that we can show up and drop it in 10, by the end of 24 hours. And by the end of 3 days, we can have field operating hospitals there. Not necessarily to do surgery in this case. That's what we did in Haiti. We showed up with our surgical teams, and we were helping with amputations and crush injuries and that kind of stuff in days. And so, my impression is in this West Africa situation, we're showing up with more of a public health, education, clean food and water, clean blankets, clean places to take care of folks in a supportive level, and if necessary, transport people to hospitals. Transportation over there is starting to break down, and the ability to get people to those limited hospitals, with those limited resource hospitals, when that starts breaking down, you've got people, with bloody diarrhea in the back of a taxi sharing with the next guy who's trying to get to the hospital, and that's just a bad setup. So we're bringing a lot of capability on the medical side, and we dress like G.I. Joe, because that's kind of what we pretend we all are. But when we get there, we're there with stethoscopes and syringes and not necessarily M16s.
Yeah, see, that's what I kind of told people was, what people don't understand is what's happening behind the scenes. You get, even if you just say that we're sending doctors and nurses over, the logistics in that goes beyond the doctor and the nurse. It's very similar to the fighting soldier in the field. For every doc or nurse that's in the field or fighting soldier in the field, there's 4 people behind them supporting them, if not more. Because they have to have food, they have to have water, they have to have housing, they need resupply. This stuff has to be trucked in, flown in, whatever it's got to be done. These guys get off a shift, they've got to be able to come in, eat, shower, get clean. So then, therefore, we don't have internal problems. So I don't think people really understand that for every person on the ground, there's 3 or 4 behind them supporting them.
Absolutely. We've got guys with the equipment, with the gasoline, with the trucks, with the things. We're probably bringing small surgical setup stuff, but most of this is public health infrastructure stuff. We've got more public health techs working there on clean food, clean water, clean sheets, clean place to sleep. Hey, it starts to sound like a prepper video here.
Yeah.
Basic survival stuff is what they need over there. And so I don't have the numbers in front of me. A handful of docs. Most of the folks who are going are the support guys who are going to help sit alongside the local host nation and try to help build that infrastructure where they can. And a handful of the folks are going to be advisors sitting next to the local government and saying, hey, this is what we think the next step should be. This is how to effectively do a quarantine without shooting everybody that tries to leave the city.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Right. Okay, so yeah.
People get nervous. When you say quarantine, nobody can leave your houses, and then when you don't enforce a quarantine, you risk having a guy leave Liberia who was just taking care of a sick family member, showing up in the middle of, downtown Dallas.
Yeah. Yeah.
That could happen.
Right. Well, see, and that's one that we've actually had a conversation here with, is that if you're going to be in total panic mode, and you're going to be freaked out, and you're going to be worried about this, and let's say that this does, because now we have a guy that came into the United States, ended up getting all the way to the center of the United States. Who knows how many people this guy has touched, and been in physical contact with, and you can tell us whether that is or isn't a problem. But for every 1 or 2 people that he has touched, let's say it's 3% of the people he's touched could be infected. Now those people continue through the airport and blah 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 blah.
I think as of this morning there was like 18 people that they were watching because he wasn't symptomatic while he was on the airplane. The news keeps saying that. But now there's like 5 kids, and I mean they're disinfecting schools, and I haven't caught up with it this evening. Kind of makes us a little nervous. This is really in our backyard.
Absolutely. Some of that's probably overkill.
But better safe than sorry, right?
When it comes to stuff like this, I'm okay with overkill. Because you only have to die once before it becomes pretty serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
United Airlines is still trying to track down everyone on those flights. And you would think with, all the screening we have to go through to get on the plane, they would know everything about us already.
Right.
Just, look at my pictures on your spatograph. And that guy that checked my PSA twice. I'm not sure what he was up to. But, when you go through that process, you would think that they would be readily easily to come up with a list of names and contact information. and call these people. And what they should be doing is a quick call and say, hey, you are on a flight with a potentially infected person. If you have the following symptoms, seek emergency medical care and tell them this kind of thing. And that's totally fine. We do that all the time for the larger that flu with the extremely drug-resistant TB. This is a pretty regular thing, and I'm honestly more worried about TB on a plane than I am about Ebola, especially an asymptomatic Ebola patient. When you don't have the runny nose and the sneezing and the coughing and the bloody diarrhea and the bleeding from your eyeballs and the other dramatic symptoms that sometimes happen with it, you don't have to worry about, I'm not worried about his blood getting on me if he's not bleeding. If all of his blood and spit stays inside of him, he's not a threat to me. The thing with Ebola is it's fairly hard to transmit, but once you transmit, it's got a very high case fatality rate. And that's why people are nervous about it, and appropriately so. Walking by and shaking this guy's hand, assuming he wasn't bleeding out of his hand and I didn't have open sores on my hand, probably absolutely okay. But if I'm sitting next to a guy who's coughing and sneezing for an hour in a plane where I can't go anywhere, it doesn't matter what he's got, I need to be concerned.
Okay, you just answered two questions there. That was one of the ones people have been asking me, and I'm not a medical professional. I'm CPR certified, military first aid, that kind of stuff. And I've just said, hey, if you want to, and this again goes back to the quarantine, if you want to be totally freaked out about it, self-quarantine.
Absolutely.
Quarantine yourself, stay in your house, and this goes back to being a prepper, is, have the supplies to where you don't have to go buy. And it's basically, I don't want to go out to a grocery store or Walmart where all these sick people are at. Have everything you need, just don't go anywhere.
Well, here's another concern I have, Fighter Doc, is that, this guy went to the ER and they gave him antibiotics and sent him home the first go round. Okay, you and I both know when you're traveling in the city, you're going to stop by the local convenience store, you're going to go put gas in your car when you're feeling good or not. Okay, you're going to go up there, you're going to go to the store, go get some aspirin. You're going to handle that. You're going to handle either cash, or you're going to handle a debit card. You're going to touch a keypad. Okay, you've been coughing into your hand. All right, let's say you're expelling a little bit of mucus, whatever the case may be. The next person that comes along and handles that keypad, for instance, or gasoline pump, is now and reached up, rubs their eyes or something. I mean, are we looking at a transmission ratio of this virus to where it that could be a possibility?
And that's the tricky part about medicine. It's totally possible. The keypad to eyeball scenario, the gasoline pump to I just need to pull out a dollar bill, let me lick my thumb real quick because these two are sticking together. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? Not really. But this virus is different. And one of the cool / scary things about it is we found the virus living in secretions from people weeks after they have left the person. So when people say we need to treat Ebola like we treat HIV, as long as we're not passing blood and body fluids between each other regularly, we're probably not going to get sick. Well, the difference is when HIV virus leaves the body, it dies really quickly. Ebola lasts outside the body. It's a little more fastidious, and in certain body fluids, they've actually documented 21 days of viral pathogenicity, which is downright scary. But that tends to be the grosser body fluids. The bloody diarrhea, the blood-soaked rags, the semen. Those things are going to be more likely to carry the virus longer.
Than a mucus.
What's that?
Than a mucus. Right.
So somebody sneezes on me. I'm not happy about it. I wash my hands, I wash my face, I punch the guy in the face.
That's kind of where we were going, yeah. We were like,
high five and go get something to drink.
Yeah.
But just the pathogenicity, I guess technically it's the virulence. There's medical terms that describe one or the other. This one doesn't spread easily, but if you get it, it's potentially bad news. Now there's a caveat to that. Part of the reason that the death rate is so high is the place that these people are getting sick.
It's a third world country.
Right. It's we call them developing countries now because we're more politically correct, and I get reminded on that on a regular basis. I have to be nicer to people who are living in third world countries who don't even hear me. They're living in mud huts in some cases. In some cases they don't use mud. In some cases they use dry cow feces to make their houses. And when they have bloody diarrhea, it may be 3 hours for them to get to a community medical center, which may have a nurse, if it's a good one, but more than likely has a community-trained individual who can say, "You're sick, drink water, go home." If they're very lucky, they may be able to get to see a doctor. Now, that doctor's treatment options include fluids, rest, some food. We don't have a whole lot of options to treat these kinds of things. They don't have, biodefense labs in the mountains of Liberia. They just don't. And so when you tell me their death rate is, 50%, give or take, in most places, I go, well, that sort of makes sense. They're dying, they're dying in childbirth at rates that aren't even close to what they are in America. They're dying from car accidents over there, at rates that we don't die from over there. So it's not really a fair comparison. So what the real death rate would be in a country like America, while all the systems are working appropriately, which is a huge caveat, is probably apples to, pork chops. It's a comparison you can make, but it's not really a fair comparison.
Okay, and based on that, like you said, we've got the doctor that came back. Hang on, I'm getting feedback here. We've got the doctor that came back from being over there, and he's fine. He no longer has Ebola.
Right. We've actually had 3 cases that came back. 2 of them went down to CDC in Atlanta. The doctor, and I think she was a nurse that was working with them, very aggressively treated, potentially more mild cases anyway, because they were healthy when they started. There's another prep piece right there that we should probably pay attention to. So they were healthy when they started. They got back as soon as they could. They sought treatment as soon as they could. Aggressive therapy. They even did some of the investigational therapies. And they did fine. The 3rd case that came back, I want to say ended up in Montana, also seems to be doing fine. So when we treat them aggressively, we treat them early, they start off healthier to begin with. They're not malnourished, they're not dehydrated, they're not diabetic, infected with AIDS, etc., etc. We have a better protoplasm to start with, and they tend to do better.
Okay, so one of the things that I had on my list that you hit on was get your immune system up now.
Yes.
I mean, like right now we're in the winter's coming season, and everybody's got bronchitis and all this.
Yep.
Do not jack around. Get that shucked off. I mean, I know that we use doctors where we can. I'm a big thieves oil fan. With essential oils.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of one of my things that I've been telling people is get your immune system up now. We don't have the problems they've got there. Again, being from a third world country, and we're not politically correct, so we can say that.
You guys can get away with that.
Yeah. So so you hit on that was keep your immune system up. Don't jack around right now with this running around. Stay healthy.
And I would say now is the time to get medically prepared. And to some extent that means make sure you've got a stock of this and a stock of that. But more importantly, it means make sure you're taking care of yourself. If you haven't seen a doctor for your regular checkup in 10 years, hey, if you need blood pressure taken care of, take care of your blood pressure. If you need your cholesterol taken care of, look at taking care of your cholesterol. If your diabetes is raging out of control, take care of that. Because when you start adding those 3 things together, you start really affecting your quality of life, your ability to function, and your body's immune system. And then the medications we put on top of those things make it worse sometimes. They might help prolong your life. They may not improve your quality of life in the short term. And sometimes, and I'm just going to be honest, sometimes the answer is we need to lose that 20 or 30 pounds that we're carrying around the middle. And making those preparations now will help us if something happens and this Ebola case turns into 1,000 cases in Dallas. If we've got 1,000 cases in Dallas, I can tell you hospitals everywhere are going to be full of people who are worried but not sick. And they're going to be saying, test me for this because I sneezed yesterday. Well, and in those situations, if you show up saying, hey, I need a refill of my cholesterol medicine, you get to go to the back of the line in the ER while other people are taking turns coughing and sneezing in your face.
Yeah. Well, see, to me, I mean, I that's one of the preps that I teach. And one is, if at all possible, stay out of the hospital. They're full of sick people.
Yes.
They're full of sick people.
Yes.
So I go
die.
Yeah, I go see my doctor, and I, work around Obamacare as much as I can.
Yep.
And what I do is I go in and I see my doctor, and my doctor is really cool. And I tell she's like, oh, here's your thyroid medicine, here's this, here's that. And I said, can you write me that prescription for 1 year, please?
There you go.
And what she does is she writes it for the entire year. And she calls it in, and I go down, and I go to my local grocery store, and they fill it for 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
I call back a week later, and I ask for a refill.
Yep.
And I go back down, and I get another 90 days. So in the matter of 6 to 8 weeks, I've got a year's worth of medicine.
And that's the right way to do it. If you show up to your doctor and you say, Doctor, I'm concerned about the end of the world, zombie apocalypse, cats and dogs living together, I need a year's supply of my medicine now, they're going to ask you some more questions.
Yeah.
To put it nicely. But if you say, hey, is there any chance I can get this full for a year? My numbers have been stable, we're heading in the right direction. I think most good docs who aren't under the thumb of Obamacare would absolutely write that prescription for a generic medication.
Yep.
Some medications, they need to be on brand, and I get that, but most of them, generic medication, go pick it up at Walmart, Kmart, your local grocery store, handful of bucks, and you're stocked up, easy peasy.
Now, one of the things I did find was that insurance does not like you to do that.
Right.
But guess what? If you tell the pharmacist, ask the pharmacist, what if I pay cash?
Yep.
And at one time I lost my insurance, and you know what I found out? I paid less cash than I would have with insurance.
Absolutely.
Because the insurance company's got to make their little buck on it. So now I don't do any medication. I think there's a cholesterol medication they want me on, but I refuse to pay for it.
Yep.
But it's just astronomical. But yeah, I mean, I think one of mine, Obamacare took out of being a generic, and they made it back to being the name brand or whatever, or on the other chart. So instead of paying $10 for 3 months, I pay $30 for 3 months. You know what? I'm really not complaining.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree, and I think that's the right answer. And if you talk to the pharmacist and they're like, hey, look, I can't refill them all, ask them about mail order options.
Yeah.
Certain companies will mail it, no kidding, to your doorstep for cheaper than you would be paying in the pharmacy. And the companies will gladly do that because that saves them time, effort, energy, and it's easy for everybody. And then you've got it already prepackaged in a box. Keep it in a dry, cool location. Keep it, sealed until you need it, kind of thing. And that medication will last a long time.
There you go. So stay healthy. Get checked out. Don't rush in right now and say I coughed.
Right.
More farther into preparation. I've got some little notes here. PPE, personal protective equipment. Now, me and Dave both work in environments where we have to wear safety glasses. At times we have to wear rubber surgical style gloves. We may have to wear masks of some sort. Go into that a little bit. I mean, we're already wearing safety glasses. We're wearing gloves. I mean, I kind of bring this up because I just bought 100 pairs of gloves for $7 on Amazon.
There you go.
N95 masks, you get them on Amazon. They were like $10, I think. I mean, when we're getting the PPE, we also have to wear long sleeve shirts at times.
Right.
Go into that a little bit and tell us, what if this gets bad. I mean, to me, the Japanese have been doing it for years.
Yep. So I think one of the key things is God gave us the best PPE we can ask for. We've got an intact skin, and that's the best barrier to all of this stuff. So if you've got cuts and scrapes, especially on your hands, and you're working with your hands, you're working with people, find the cuts and scrapes, take care of those right away. Don't let the sores last, bandage them up, keep them clean, keep them dry. Take care of the open cuts early, don't let them linger, because that's a shortcut right past your main immune system right there. Your personal protective equipment that God gave you is your skin. The next up, I always travel with nitrile gloves, and I can probably get away with it because I'm a doc, and if you weren't a doc, people might think you were weird, but in this day and age, I've got I've got little medical kits that don't look too crazy, but they're full of stuff that's got the nitrile gloves updated. When you buy the $3 kit from Walmart, it's got the cheap rubber gloves, and that's a good start. When you get the chance, check out Walmart. They sell nitrile gloves. I like the black ones because they make me feel cool. You can put it in a Ziploc bag, and don't just put one set. Have one set for you, have one set for the person who's going to help you, whoever that person may be. I plan on it being my wife, but it might be, hey, I run across a car accident, and this guy here is standing there with a cell phone. Dude, here's some gloves, you get to help me. Hey, this guy's barfing up blood. I'm going to put on my gloves, I'm going to hand the brave soul next to me a pair of gloves and say, you need to help me. So I always have at least 2 sets, regardless of where I go. If I'm flying, if I'm driving, in my car, and I've got one in both of my cars, I've got them in every little medical kit that I've got. The pair of gloves is huge, and the reason for that is we're people and we use our hands a lot. And that's why I focus on the cuts on the hands, the gloves on the hands. That's going to be the most bang for your buck. If I had to do a surgery, if I had to do an appendectomy in the middle of Africa, and I get one piece of PPE, I want my gloves. And that's what I'm using, that's what's in contact with things, that's what has to be protected. In cases where I'm really concerned and I don't have help, I'm putting both sets of gloves on myself, just an extra barrier. Double gloving is well accepted to potentially reduce by an order of magnitude any risk of infection.
Right.
The next thing up is the mask. So if I get, hey, you can have 2 things. Okay, I'm going to take a glove and a mask. Mask is going to be next. And I might be kind of cheating on eye protection because I wear glasses because I'm a nerd, and that is my free set of eye pro that I have on me at all times. Masks are, like you said, the Japanese and a lot of Asian countries. When I was in Singapore, when you're out driving, people will wear the regular surgical masks. And they'll wear them everywhere. And they're okay for smog and dust and that kind of stuff. They're actually pretty decent for a lot of the stuff that's going around now. There's a resurgence of TB, tuberculosis in the States. The surgical mask is probably fine for that. The enterovirus, D68 is going around. And that's another kind of large droplet kind of thing where if you've got your basic surgical mask, you'll probably be fine. And to be honest, if it's Ebola and somebody sneezes in your face and you've got a surgical mask on, you'll probably be fine as long as you don't eat the surgical mask afterwards.
Now this is an N95 mask and better?
No, N95 is absolutely better. Surgical mask will get the job done, but that's not a risk I'm comfortable taking when we start talking about Ebola. You're probably fine. The science of it says, yeah, you're probably fine with the surgical mask. I wouldn't prolong exposure with a basic surgical mask, But if I've got a choice of surgical mask or N95, I'm taking N95. Now, there's a bunch of N95 masks out there. Personally, I like the 3M, 3 mic. That company makes a lot of them. They do really well. They check their stuff very well.
I've actually got a box sitting right here. I just picked them up from Amazon. Yeah, they were 3M. I guess the model number is an 8000, and of course it's going to be in French.
Turn the box.
There you go. There, turn the box around to the English side. It's a particle respirator, and it says 3M and it says N95 all over it. NIOSH N95.
Yep.
And there's 30 of these things. These were 30 masks, and they can't be $10 for the box. So of course, me being the freak that I am, I ordered 4 boxes. I ordered five packs of gloves. Let's see, the gloves. What were they? The gloves were 100 of them each. 100 gloves for $7. And here's something that I found that somebody gave me because we were talking about it, and this is something I hadn't heard of. And I recently got recertified for CPR, the new CPR, because there was a new CPR.
Yep.
And it was a 5-pack of masks to give CPR, and it goes on a 1x1 keychain.
Yep.
And and I was told, do not unpack this thing. And it's a 1x1 little keychain, and you pull it out, it sits on your keys, and it's in a little canvas bag. A 5-pack of these masks so you can do CPR on somebody or give them breaths, and it's got a one-way valve in it. 5 of these things for $12.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, everybody that I know that has that CPR certified, everybody needs one of these, you know. So of course I bought 5 packs of 5 because I'm a freak like that. But to me, this is just the way to go.
In my car, it's easy, it's small, it's portable. You hit it on a couple points there. NIOSH, NIOSH is the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. I want to say so. That's more. There's a handful of masks out there that are N95. NIOSH is one that certifies them for use in an occupational setting. For example, I do sandblasting, I do bead blasting, I do sanding on a regular basis. The N95 will stop 95% of particulates on average 0.3 microns in size. So this is great for all of that stuff. if you pay more, you can get the FDA-approved mask, which does the exact same thing. So the NIOSH ones tend to be a little bit cheaper than the surgical grade N95s, and that's just something to consider. If it's NIOSH or FDA certified N95, you're okay. Something to consider: a lot of the NIOSH ones have an exhalation valve on them, and that just makes breathing easier. So if you're concerned about, I have something and I don't want it to give it to somebody, like say I've got Ebola and I want to share it with you guys, the exhalation valve allows unfiltered air out, but it filters the air on the way in but not on the way out. So if I've got the disease, I need to make sure that my mask does not have an exhalation valve.
Okay, and I understand that. And the ones I have, when I ordered them, I think I got both. And so far the shipments come in, they don't have a valve. Now,
there you go.
Here's my question. In your opinion, would it be better to get the NIOSH or the FDA's?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Complete wash. Whichever's cheaper, from a reputable company. One of the keys with the N95s is you want to make sure you've got a good tight seal on them. The surgical masks are cheap and they're flat, and they kind of have bunches, and you can feel the air go past your cheeks when you breathe out. The NIOSH or the FDA-approved N95 masks, you should not feel a whole lot of airflow. The downside when you don't have a lot of that airflow is it's going to get, when you're wearing these things for hours on end, which is a ton of fun, you're going to get buildup of condensation inside the mask. When the mask starts to get wet, it's not as effective at filtering. So when you start to feel, especially if you're sweaty, you're in, no kidding, Africa, it's Africa hot, you're sweating, you've got the condensation, you've been there for an hour, you're going to want to change out your mask to keep them dry to improve their filtering rates.
Okay, it's just a gas mask.
Yeah, see, now that was something Dave just brought up here, was that we're no longer in the military, so we don't shave.
There you go.
So we're kind of scruffy. We're not
Duck Dynasty.
Yeah, we're not Duck Dynasty, but we are. But we're scruffy, from day to day. So, I mean, in a bad scenario, would we want to shave and try to get a good seal, or does the N95? I don't think it really matters with that mask.
Well, the N95, it's got to get a good seal.
Okay.
Otherwise, you've got air pockets coming in between the beard hairs. So, day-to-day ops, and this is one of the reasons that the military says that we have to shave. And this is one of the reasons why the military for a long time fought religious exemptions to facial hair, was if you've got to put that gas mask on, if you don't get a seal, mustard gas doesn't care what your religion is, it's coming through.
Right. And that was in the Army, because me and Dave were both Army, and I had the freaky, almost a Hitler mustache, because where the line leaves the nose and goes to the corner of the mouth,
yep,
the mustache could not protrude across that.
Yep. That's still the standard.
Yeah, so if I don't have the Pepe Le Pew, then I got the Hitler mustache. So
either one's loose.
Yeah, and I understood the theory in it. So, but yeah, the gas mask did have to seal.
And I would say that's still the rule for me personally. When my boss isn't around, I don't shave. Because I let it grow out, because that's just the way I'm wired. But if I'm in Africa, or if I'm in a country that's got endemic disease, I'm clean shaven, I'm making sure I don't have any cuts on my face, and I'm wearing the N95, and I'm double checking my seal to make sure I've got a good one.
Man, if you send me to Africa, I'm shaving my butt. So if push comes to shove and this gets hot, of course we want everybody to get the N95 masks. Of course we can be tactical and get the black gloves.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all good, but yeah, so that was one of the questions we had about shaving, because we're antisocial like that.
Yeah, and it's totally risk, benefit. If you guys are out in your compound with the moat and the gators and all that kind of stuff, and nobody gets near you, no reason to shave, no reason to wear a mask.
Yeah, see, I figure that if the push comes to shove and this thing goes, really bad, I'm going to keep everybody at the other side of a 45 ACP, and I'll be good.
There you go. Keep your distance, because Ebola's got to get close.
Yeah. Now,
and just real quick on the rest of the masks, they do also make an N99 and an N100. They cost more. They filter slightly better. It goes from 95 to 99 to 99.7% of filtration at the 0.3 microns. But bang for the buck, N95 is the way to go. There are some other masks out there on the market, and I want to say there are R95, R99, and R100s. and those are ones that are going to be oil resistant. So N95 stands for, the N is not oil resistant. So if you get gun oil, if you get, you've been sweating and facial grease is getting all over it, it's not oil resistant, and when they get oiled up, they're going to let stuff through. So N99s, N100s, I'm not wasting my money on it, even with Ebola. N95, I think, is the way to go.
Well, and I also saw some today that actually, it was of course the 3Ms are more of a cup style mask, and right. I saw some today that were more of a soft wrap mask that kind of went across the ears or whatever, but they had like a plexiglass or a plastic face shield that went up.
Yep.
So I thought, well, those were cool too. If you've got to actually be in the area where you're treating with somebody, so.
Right, and I'll be honest, when it comes to, like, when we did surgery on HIV positive or hepatitis C cases, I would do one of those. They make them with a duckbill, kind of a duckbill face, with the glass shield, or not glass, but plexiglass kind of piece of plastic that sticks up in front of your face. And that was just an extra layer of protection for a piece of plexiglass to catch blood before it gets to my glasses, because I don't want anything getting in my eyes, because that's an open route directly to my brain, and I'm just not interested in having Ebola in my brain.
Well, yeah, I mean, come on, you're going to blow away all that college education.
That's right.
Now, here's a question. I mean, we're just kind of throwing stuff out there. Bleach and alcohol for disinfecting for possible contact areas. What's your thought process on that?
Yeah, we know bleach works well for Ebola, and alcohol should work well. The studies aren't as robust as the bleach ones are, but either one of those should be fine. And I'm saying should be fine because, honestly, this is one of those diseases that we still don't have a whole lot of data on. So the mad scientists in our country are going, sweet, we finally have enough cases where we can start to get good data. Let's see how bad this gets.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Guys like me are saying, let's bleach it and alcohol it and set it on fire, and then we'll see what we did overkill. Again, I'm pro-overkill on this one to some extent. One of the things we found is there's a bacteria out there called Clostridium difficile. It causes horrible colitis, diarrhea. It's no fun for anybody. What we found is we were cleaning the rooms with alcohol, because that was cheap and that's what killed everything else, we thought. And what we found is that alcohol was actually causing C. diff to sporulate and protect itself. And so it was actually living longer when we hit it with alcohol. So just something else to terrify people. Bleach seems to work just fine. Obviously diluted, don't hurt yourself. Alcohol seems to work fine at this point. But honestly, soap and water is money. When it comes to your hands and your face, soap and water, don't bleach your face. But when it comes to surfaces, soap and water, great. Alcohol, great. Bleach, probably better.
Okay. Yeah, we're looking kind of at disinfecting stuff. Mm-hmm. And again, we've always been big fans of Dawn dishwashing soap. Yep. The blue. I mean, of course, we live out here in northeast Texas, and we got boys that lube up their whole arm and stick it up in a cow and pull a calf out, and that's what they're using because of the disinfecting purposes.
Yeah, that stuff works great.
Okay.
They were going overkill by, I don't know if you saw where the Ebola case, he was down and he went and visited some folks that went to the school, so the school was shutting down and the janitors were, blowtorching the place or whatever. They were probably using combinations of standard household cleaners, and that's probably fine. It's probably overkill. The kids who were in the school didn't have a significant enough exposure based off of, open source what I can read online kind of thing. So I'm not too concerned about the school, but they were just using standard stuff. I don't think we need to get too crazy with fancy new chemicals. Standard soap, standard bleach, standard alcohol.
Okay. So, where are you at with like handshaking, hugging, personal contact? I mean, I know that in the business world we're always shaking hands, and out here in East Texas everybody's shaking hands and meeting and greeting. But if this thing does start to get out there a little bit, I'm kind of thinking just, hey dude, how's it going?
Fist bump.
Not even a fist bump. I mean, what are your thoughts on it? Where are we going with this? Or where could this go?
The tricky thing right now is we've got a couple of outbreaks that are going on at the same time. Ebola, I'm not afraid of handshaking. If you've got blood coming from your eyes and from your face and from your backside and I can see it, you shouldn't be shaking my hand. You should be in a hospital. We'll hug it out when you're better, a lot better for a long period of time. There's also the enterovirus, the D68 that's going around now. It's hospitalizing, paralyzing kids. It's even killed a couple of them now. It's another respiratory virus. That one is going to spread much more readily by a handshake, even by a fist bump. And everyone's telling us we're supposed to be coughing and sneezing into our elbows or to a handkerchief. So now we used to do elbow bumps because we were concerned about fist bumps. So we would kind of bump elbows and call it a day. Well, I'm concerned about bumping elbows because the CDC is telling everyone to sneeze into their elbow. So, yeah, when somebody is sick, they're sneezing, they've got that look like they're not feeling good, away from, the recommendation is 3 meters to be on the safe side, which I think is like 9 feet in American.
Yeah, it's 10 feet American, but yeah, the conversion sucks.
Way from a distance, and if folks give you a look, hey, I want to shake your hand, just go, hey, look, I'm sorry, I'm concerned about getting sick. Or if they're getting too close and you're chilly, tell them you're sick.
Yeah, tell them you're sick, yeah.
And then suddenly you'll get all kinds of space. It works out great.
Yep.
So is that
right now, I'm still handshaking at church. There was a guy last week who had a cold, and he just, we fist bumped and called it a day. But the church has Purell everywhere, so it works out.
right?
Shake the hand and Purell right away.
Right. Well, I just saw a little bit on that virus with the kids. Is that strictly being transmitted with kids? Or, are adults getting that? Or what's the story with that one?
So that one's been popping up. And we see it every once in a while. It was first picked up, I think, in California in the 60s. Just like everything else was picked up in California in the 60s. And what we're seeing is it's a respiratory virus. It has these little outbreaks every so many years. It tends to be a minor thing that we don't even usually test for. The issue is we started having people that were really sick, ICU, getting ECMO. That's where their blood is getting transfused basically continuously outside of their body kind of stuff. So they're going through some high-end stuff, and they were at big fancy hospitals. And they said, let's test because something weird is going on here. And they were getting small clusters of them. And they said, hey, this is, D68, it's not usually that big of a deal. The issue is we're seeing, so far it's been predominantly in children, males, females, 50-50, depending on which one you listen to, which study you listen to. Mostly kids that have had some kind of allergies or some kind of asthma, some kind of wheezing history. Those are the kids that tends to be hitting worse. Those ones that tend to end up in the hospital. You and me get exposed to this, I might have the sniffles for a day, press on with life, no big deal. But you get a kid that's immune compromised, you've got somebody who's, on chronic steroids for their lung disease or whatever. Those are the guys that we're worrying about. And the vast majority of the folks that are ending up hospitalized are those that have an underlying respiratory or immune disorder. I think the youngest one was 6 weeks, the oldest one was 16 years, are the big cases that the CDC is talking about now. And that's kind of where this one usually goes. It just seems to be a little bit more robust this year. There's certainly plenty of tinfoil hat thinkers out there that think that either the government imported it on purpose, it imported it on accident, or that this is, weaponized diarrhea. I'm not convinced this is the case. I think it's just, the natural progression. We started changing. We started letting down our guard on some things, basic health care kind of stuff. And we're going to see this, and this is probably not done yet. We're probably going to see this last a little bit longer. They're saying probably mid-November the D68 will either fizzle out or flame up and take over the nation. I'm not sure which. But I'm expecting the D68 to be, wash your hands. The treatment is the same as Ebola. Fluids, rest, good nutrition. The prevention is the same. Wash your hands, fluids, rest, good nutrition. Take care of your medical conditions before you start getting close to these things. But yeah, they're starting to shut down schools, and that's when you start seeing, hey, the self-imposed quarantine, the city says your kids can't come to school, so now mom has to stay home. I think it's just a matter of a lot of folks don't want to play that game, so they would rather send all their kids to daycare a little bit sick, and that's what's spreading it. So I'm all for, hey, it's time to start taking some sick days, America. Spend some time with your family. Let these things blow over. Go out in the woods and go camping and far away from people. Learn some skills. Rough it for a little bit. Improve your immunity, improve your skill set, improve your life, get some clean, fresh air, and I think that would help America as a general rule, but now, especially when we're starting to see these little epidemics pop up.
Well, see, and another one, we talk about this, we talk about things firing up, and of course, Ebola is new to us, but its death rate is very high in where it's at. Now, again, because we're not a third world country, when we are healthier and we have better medical care, there's other things that are here that people keep forgetting about.
Absolutely.
We have bubonic plague. It's never left Colorado. I mean,
The last fatality was in Colorado. A little girl from the Air Force got me.
Well, now there was just a guy, wasn't it just not long ago, his dog got it and he got it?
Yep. I think he survived though, didn't he?
I don't know if he survived or if he died. I don't remember. But the point is that it's there. It's in the fleas in the prairie dogs that are in the fields.
Yep, it's endemic in the prairie dog population. Every once in a while it makes that jump.
Right. So it's like, okay, it's there. It's there, but it's just we're not Africa. So we're
Right.
kind of at a 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other, in that we need to prepare for this. And if it goes pandemic, you need to be able to be ready for it.
Yep. And I think the biggest one that we see kills more people every year. Every year we lose people to flu, pneumonia kind of stuff, because they're not taking care of themselves. I'm a big proponent of the flu shot, not just because I have to get it. It does cause some side effects for some folks, but for the most part it does prevent the flu, or at least minimizes the risk to the flu, especially in your high-risk populations. Your older smokers absolutely should get the flu shot. If you're a young, healthy person who stays kind of to themselves and washes your hands, flu shot's kind of plus minus for you. If you get the flu, you'll probably be okay. But if you're 90 and you live in a nursing home, please get a flu shot.
Right.
And we're going to see probably in the tens of thousands of people die this year from the flu and pneumonia. But we still pay attention to that one guy that might or might not have died from bubonic plague this year. So there's that kind of the known thing that we're used to, the flu. Yeah, well, it's just the flu, no big deal. And then the unknown, scary, big stuff, Ebola, one case,
Well, and that's because nobody talks about the hundreds of people who died from the flu.
Exactly.
But what it is, I think what it is the death rate from the flu is very low in comparison compared to Ebola.
Right. Huge attack rate, low mortality rate.
Right. With Ebola, it's low attack rate, high mortality.
Bingo. And that's scary.
Right. And I think for us, I know my daughters, I've got older daughters and grandkids, and they are freaking out. It's like I can't watch my kids go through this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess now it's time to prepare then, huh?
Yep. Yeah, you can panic all you want. It's not going to help you, but if you prepare for it, you do some appropriate planning, you can actually prevent yourself from getting Ebola, and then you'll be all right. And then you can, help those other people who are still in panic mode, pull back from the edge. These are the things you need to know. These are the things you can do to help yourself. And panic is not on the list of things you can do to help yourself.
Oh, totally agree. I get that. I get that all the time.
It never is. I've covered that, 2 or 3 podcasts that I've done. The panic is the worst thing you can do. And
being preppers like we are, I think that is one of the best things that we can do, because the person who is not prepared panics. The person who is prepared goes, go get this, go get that, bring me this, and I got a plan.
Right.
We're already set. And it's a military thing for most of us, and we've been teaching it to people who are not military people, and and it just, when you've got all of the stuff prepared, and we train with it all the time, so we're aware of it. Sometimes, Dave will do it to me. I'll go like, man, what am I going to do with this? And Dave's like, dude, do this. I'm like, duh. I've got all this stuff, but I've just forgotten about some of the stuff that I've got, or some of the training that we've had. And I'm like, okay, I'm done being stupid now. I'll go back to getting this stuff done.
Yeah, we were taught that proper prior planning prevents poor performance.
I have another acronym for that, but yeah, that works.
Go ahead and go with yours, Dave. Go ahead and go with yours.
That's what I'm allowed to use.
I use piss poor planning produces piss poor performance. That's what I've always said.
And then mine is always, piss poor planning on your part does not preclude an emergency on my part.
Bingo.
And that's with this thing with Ebola. I've got a lot of people who have been suddenly hitting the group, which is good, and we're getting a lot of activity, and a lot of people are being interactive and they're asking questions. But then again, I've got people that I actually know personally. They're like, man, if this gets bad, I'm coming to your house. Want to bet?
We're right.
This is why you don't know where I live.
That's right.
Because no, you're not. No, you need to get your stuff in order at your house before you ever come to mine.
Well, I think that's something that the good guys need to think about. I'd like to consider myself one of the good guys, and you guys too. Obviously, that's why we're talking. The good guys who are able to see this stuff coming, we don't have to panic. One of the things that we're always taught is when you come upon an emergency scene, a trauma case, whatever, take your own pulse first. Once you've got yourself put together, now you can help other people. And so, but that's an option that we have, is to help other people. But when they start showing up at our door and bringing the panic to my doorstep, well, that's some of the other preps that I keep, sometimes in a safe.
Right.
Right.
Again, take my own pulse first, explain calmly the situation. You have approached my door, you're bringing this threat to my door, threatening my family. You know, you're about to be introduced to that, 5P acronym in a bad way, dude.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, we take our pulse, we help where we can, when we want to. If you show up and you are somebody I want to help, it's a different conversation than if you show up and demand that I give you my 3M mask and my nitrile gloves and, my defense tool of choice.
Yeah, piss poor planning on your part does not make an emergency on mine.
Exactly. And if you bring an emergency to my door, I plan for that too.
And see, I think this is something that's unique with us and with Bob, is that we don't make a dime on this.
Mm-hmm.
We are out there trying to spread the word, educate people. And now I know Bob, does make a little bit of money on commissions from Amazon or whatever. I'm wanting to say 90% of that goes to his all of his costs for internet and all of his site costs, servers and whatever. So yeah, we're not making any money on this. So this is not a money making thing. I know that some of the podcasts do have sponsors and they do this and make money, but
I don't fault them for that. Hey, make a living by helping people. I get it.
Oh yeah, and that's fine. But I mean, it's like us. We've never really done this for money. Mm-hmm. We've just now finally started breaking even on our classes and stuff. But it's like you. I mean, you're out there. You're putting yourself at risk because depending on how the political view is of this, just you talking, and you're like
travel here in the future.
Yeah. So it's like we're all trying to help.
If I do get the chance to do some travel, the next podcast will be very interesting, but also possibly censored.
So it could be local.
Exactly.
Yeah, that could be cool because, we're in a really unique area. I mean, Bob's not far, Jack's not far. We've got all kinds of people, and we've got some very interesting people for you to meet if you get out here.
Oh, absolutely. I've talked to some of the folks that I work with, and they've told me, and one of them's been a friend of mine since probably '06, and she said, if I've got a choice of where they deploy me, this was before Dallas was on the option of places to get deployed, she would rather be deployed to West Africa, because we know what to do with Ebola. We know how to prevent it, we know how to stop it. It's not super politically affiliated and charged one way or the other. The conspiracy theories are pretty limited when it comes to Ebola. She says, I will take Ebola over ISIS any day.
Right.
So, and she's a girl. So when I hear girls wanting to go fight Ebola, and she knows what she's doing too, and that kind of means, it's not false bravado. She knows what she's getting into, and she's like, yeah, let's go deal with Ebola. Please don't send me to ISIS, because it's a completely different scenario. It's a completely different deployment.
Right.
And the ROEs over there, you're so cuffed, you can't even fight. When you get to Ebola territory, cuffs are off, gloves are on, let's go.
Yeah, it's like don't die and help as many people as you can.
Bingo. And I can get behind those ROEs.
Right. Yep.
One other quick conspiracy theory that I'm seeing pop up here and there about Ebola that I think needs to be put to bed is the aerosolization of Ebola.
Yeah, we've got two sides on that one.
Okay.
Let me throw you ours. Okay. One is we understand it's not airborne. Okay. Or we think it's not, from what we're understanding. Okay. The flip side to that, because we argue both sides, it's not airborne unless you've been in an airplane for 12 hours. So tell us what your take is.
So it can be airborne, but as far as we've been able to see so far, what makes it an airborne risk is the medical procedures. So when we're intubating somebody, we're putting a tube in their throat to help them breathe. When we're doing a bronchoscopy or bronchiectomy, when we're going down with tubes into their lungs to get pieces of tissue for biopsy, or we're looking around inside their lungs, that's when it becomes aerosolized. But that's locally aerosolized right there in the procedure area. So technically, yes, aerosolized if you're a physician putting a tube into the guy's lungs. Absolutely.
That explains it.
But even then, you're still talking large droplet aerosolization, so it's not going to go very far. If you're in an airplane and you've got a lot of people sneezing, The air is recirculated. They do bring fresh air in. They call it bleed air because it's being bled off of the engines. And so the air is being recirculated. WHO and ICAO, the International something airline organization, drawing a blank on the C, it's probably French. The ICAO guys, they have a lot of rules, and the FAA endorses them and has some more strict rules for the U.S. on how much air, how frequently it has to circulate, how much fresh air has to be brought in. And so, for the most part, for your large droplet things like tuberculosis, if you're flying, from Dallas to D.C., or from D.C. to Dallas, as the case may be, I'm not concerned about a 2 or 3 hour flight with a large droplet thing like Ebola, TB. If I'm going transcontinental and they're flying me by Kuwait Airlines down to Iraq, then you're more likely to get a significant exposure. It's not an American carrier. It's a much longer duration of flight, and their medical standards are, on paper, potentially the same, but enforcement is very different.
Right.
So there's a lot of pieces that go into it. You can't say every air flight is risky. You're honestly more likely to walk away from a flight with a cold, a flu, a rhinovirus, or D68, and you may never know because you just had the sniffles for a day. Then you are to get Ebola.
I've got a question for you.
If you wear a mask on the plane, some folks might look at you and call you paranoid, but you know what? When you get off the plane and you take your mask off and you're not coughing, what's up?
Yeah. Now I've got one for you. We got into something here a few years ago, and it's called colloidal silver.
Yep.
Where you silver infuse basically distilled water. But something that came up, and it was a conversation we'd had, and it was, why is it that whenever they do a catheter, all the catheters are silver lined? Because, what is it, silver is an antimicrobial?
Absolutely.
Okay, so somebody else had brought up, well, they've got filters, air filters, that are silver lined or silver flaked.
Absolutely. And actually, in the military, our socks are silver impregnated as well now.
Really?
The issued ones from Military Clothing and Sales, the socks are silver impregnated for our ABUs because they reduce the fungus and the bacterial issues that go with that.
Okay.
Having said that, silver works great as an antimicrobial on surfaces. In my opinion, the data is still out, but leaning towards not so great for inside the body. You're going to find a lot of docs that say silver has no purpose in the body. You guys are crazy. You're going to find a handful of docs, a lot of naturopathic individuals, homeopathic individuals that say absolutely colloidal silver should be every day. I'm the guy that says the data's not great for it. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence that says colloidal silver is good. We are starting to see in America a rise of a condition called argyrism, where folks are overdoing it on colloidal silver.
Right, we've heard about that.
Yeah, and so folks are turning blue, which is kind of cool. But their liver's blue too. It's kind of that metallic-y blue color. And so, funny on the lips, deadly on the liver. So, and what's the recommended dose of colloidal silver? It's whatever the guy who sold it to you says. And how much is actually in there. It's not regulated, which is kind of some pluses and minuses. You don't know what you're getting. You may be getting 1,000 times what you think you're getting. You may be getting nothing. So the colloidal silver market hasn't gotten to where I want it to be. I'd like to have some really good evidence, some really good studies, some really good products that I can say, this is great. But right now I think we're still in the, Middle Ages medicine, honey, silver, leeches. Okay, well now modern medicine is okay with honey again. We're back to leeches because surgical leeches are awesome for a lot of things. But we're still not back there on silver yet. So I'm gonna hold out on that. If you're pro colloidal silver, I would say take it easy. Tend towards the lower side of the doses. Maybe not every day, but just when you're starting to feel something come on. But I'm not an anti-silver guy. In fact, I just got some silver from my JM Bullion guys yesterday.
Now we've got a buddy, and he got us into colloidal silver, and we were making it, and I've got gallons and gallons of it.
There you go.
But the colloidal silver's downside was, of course, it was not, overdoses were bad for you, and you turned blue, and you looked like you needed to be on another planet.
Right.
Okay, so then somebody else had brought up thieves oil.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually got a video on our YouTube page where I'd cut my hand open, and to deaden it and to disinfect it, we use thieves oil. And to this day, I have to really actually show you where the scar is for you to see it.
Yep. Wildcraft is big on it too.
Right. And the thing with thieves oil is, or with all essential oils, from what I've been shown and instructed on, is that most essential oils dissipate out of your body within 8 hours.
Right. Most of them.
Right. And there are no real side effects, like you don't turn blue.
Right. And that's generally because it's topical, right? The way you're using it.
Well, thieves oil, you can use it topical. You can also use it internal. I mean,
right.
2 drops of this. I've got a mix that I make for when I've got a head cold or whatever, and I call it Shoe Factory because that's what it tastes like. But
nice.
2 drops of this, and your head's clear in like 30 seconds, and you can sleep. Because what I found is that if you've got a head cold and you don't sleep, you're not getting better.
Exactly right.
But if you've got a head cold and you can get 6 hours of sleep, you'll get better quicker.
Change your world.
Right, and it's got tea tree oil in it, and it's got eucalyptus in it, and it tastes horrible, but then again, so does Robitussin.
Valid. Yeah, that's true.
So
and eucalyptus has long been used. It's one of those tribal medicines that's been around for a long time, and I'm a big fan of eucalyptus for opening up, the breathing and everything. And a lot of the issue with essential oils is, again, I've never been a member of the AMA, and they wouldn't have me anyway, and I'm okay with that. The good data on it is just not there because there's so much variability in the concoctions that are called thieves oil. And a lot of the essential oils, some of them are oil-based and some of them are alcohol-based. And the question that comes up when you start to look at the no kidding data is it the concoction altogether that's making the difference, or is it because olive oil was one of our old medical therapies for a lot of things.
Right.
Straight alcohol is a great medical therapy for a lot of things. It's a great disinfectant. It's good for a lot of medical conditions. So we start looking at, is it the concoction altogether that's doing it? Is it one of the ingredients? If it's just one of the ingredients, which one? Is this a synergistic thing? The sum of the parts is better than and so I don't know, but what I do know is if it's working and you're a young, healthy person and it's not jacking with everything else, go for it. It's not hurting me. You've got the choice. You've made some informed decisions. I need to get more into essential oils, and I've come to terms with that recently. But trying to find the right person to teach you who's not off in La La Land is sometimes tricky.
Yeah, see, we did a training class on essential oils, and we had a girl who was she was a dealer for an essential oil brand. I don't represent any brand, but I was always shown, they're like, well, you can get all your different brands, but this brand is very consistent, and this and that. And of course, the girl who came into the class, she was really good. She brought in a couple of things that I hadn't dealt with, but she was also very brand oriented. And I'm like, I happen to like the Now brand. They've been around for a long time. They're very consistent. And really, I think that's the problem with essential oils, is that this brand distills this way, and their potency per 3 drops is this, where this guy is different. And it's not tit for tat.
Exactly. But when I say this guy needs to take Tylenol, I know generally what he's getting.
Right.
So I want to get behind colloidal silver. I want to get behind essential oils, but the marketers, there's some goofy guys in the business. There's some folks that are super brand focused, and there's some straight up guys that are doing wrong, and they're selling you snake oil and they know it. It's hard to find the good guys sometimes.
Yeah, and to me, it's all about just finding the recipe, finding a brand you like, that's consistent, that you like, and then just manipulate your recipe according to what works and doesn't work. And what you have to do, really, in my eyes, just from what I know of essential oils, is you have to break down each oil specifically into what it does. When you make a blend, you have to make the blends that, one, work with each other, and then try to balance them. Because my recipes are like 100 drops of these 4 oils and 50 drops of these 4 oils, and then you have to add some cut oil, what I call cut oil, which would be your olive oil. I happen to like grapeseed oil. But But again, and some of these things you have to be careful with, because like cinnamon is hot. It's considered a hot oil. It'll burn you. So you cut them, and you cut them down with, again, olive oil or whatever. I've used them for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to take your course next time I'm down there.
Yeah, what I probably need to do is do some videos on some of the more essential oil classes and set some of that stuff up. And this is just stuff we do for free, but we appreciate it. If you got anything else that when we're talking about Ebola, and of course you brought up that there's other things that are, we should look at even worse than Ebola. Have you got anything else you want to bring up that we've missed so far?
I think my last big point is for those that have tinfoil hats. I recommend copper colanders, just my personal preference, with the chin strap. The discussion of whether or not Ebola is a government weaponized infection designed to do something. From the standpoint, I used to work in nuclear security, and so I got involved in a lot of the anti-terror stuff. This was a long time ago, back when they let me blow stuff up and get away with it. And there are certain things that the government looks for, and this was a lot of Cold War thinking, the U.S. and Russia. There were certain things that we looked for when we were going to weaponize an agent. And one of the things we wanted it to do is we wanted it to spread easily, we wanted it to spread quickly, and we wanted it to kill people, preferably quickly. Ebola doesn't spread easily, it has a low infectivity rate, and it doesn't kill people quickly. So if the government were to weaponize something, Ebola would be interesting, good for studying, and I'm sure the government has studied Ebola as a potential weapon, but it doesn't do what we want it to do. There are much better weapons out there from a biological standpoint. So for those folks that are concerned that this might be the government trying to get you, this wouldn't be one of their top 7. There are 7 that are much better.
Right. Okay.
So now we can take off our colanders or tinfoil hats. Now, I think that one, in my mind, is put to bed, but obviously if there's stuff on that pops up on the todaysurvival.com forums, I'll certainly answer those when they pop up.
There you go. All right, well, we appreciate it, Doc. And again, everybody go out to Amazon and buy your N95 masks and your gloves through Bob's website. We appreciate it, and we hope this is, kind of shed a little bit of light on some stuff. I think we've bounced around quite a bit on this.
Absolutely.
And to Bob, who has had his surgery and is cancer-free, and they have actually physically thrown him out of the hospital, probably for making a scene.
Yeah, I'm still disappointed of the selfie you took when he was getting out. He wasn't wearing a Green Bay Packers hat. I had to point that out to him.
That sweet stash going on. Come on.
Okay, Doc. Well, we appreciate it, and we'll sign off here, and we'll send this over to Bob, and we'll see where we go with it.
Great. Congratulations on 250 episodes, Bob. Thanks for the work you guys do. Super Joe and Mexican Dave, was it?
There you go.
Take care.
All right, thank you.